Welcome to The Car Guy with your host, Klaus Kindor. Currently, Klaus owns Classic Car Holdings, LLC here in Spokane, a boutique dealer specializing in vintage, collectible, and contemporary automobiles. The Car Guy is sponsored in part by European Auto House and Can-Am Body Shop. Here's Klaus.
Good morning and welcome to The Car Guy. My name is Klaus Kindor. I'm your host, and this morning I've got Tim Lane.
Hello, Klaus. Good morning.
Hello, Tim. Local State Farm agent. I met you at a car show a couple of years ago.
Yes, sir.
And I've been a State Farm member for years and years and years, longer than I care to admit.
Right, I have as well. Yes, thank you.
My pleasure. I did not know, however, that State Farm does vintage car insurance.
Yes, we do.
Tell me about that.
Classic car coverage. So it's agreed upon value coverage. The vehicle has to be 25 years or older. So classic car coverage is and the agreed upon value coverage opposed to like actual cash value. So actual cash value, you could buy a 2019 Chevy Trailblazer, drive it off the lot, get it home, and it's already depreciated 20-30%, right? So with a classic car, they're gonna most likely appreciate. So with the agreed upon value, it's what you and me and the underwriter will agree on what the value is.
Which is important because,
absolutely,
particularly when it comes to vintage cars, some of these cars are worth an awful lot of money. I mean, I deal
lot of money.
Obviously, I deal with these automobiles
Yes,
for
sir.
a living.
Yes,
right?
sir.
That's what I do for. Interesting. I never knew that State Farm did that until I met you, and I always thought you had to go through guys like Grundig or Haggerty, in order to get that insurance.
Yeah,
Do you find yourself with are State Farm's rates competitive with both Grundig and
Haggerty and the likes of those? Yeah. So as of now, we're about a third less. State Farm's very competitive with it. People always worry like, well, I don't want I have my passenger vehicles and my home with State Farm, my business with State Farm, my life insurance. I have everything with State Farm, but I don't know about my classic car. I need it with my vintage car coverage. Well, that's exactly what it is. It's the exact same coverage. It's agreed upon classic car coverage up to $1 million per vehicle. And the great thing is it could be a car that has a bunch of different modifications to it. You can have like an LS conversion car. You could have a suspension. You can do an Art Morrison chassis with an independent front suspension, 4-link rear, power rack and pinion, big disc brakes, all that stuff that you want to have in your modern car, and throw a 68 Chevelle body on it. We'll cover that. Or maybe it's an original 1968 Corvette, right?
Right.
So, which could be even more value, more money.
Right.
So what we do is we'll sit down and do an underwriting, the valuation. What are some of the modifications that you've done? Is it original? Is it restored? Is it modified? What are the modifications that you've done? Let's validate why you're coming up with this number. It's a 70 Nova, and I want $50,000 for it. Sure, everybody does wants $50,000 for a 70 Nova. Maybe it is. Is it an original SS car? What are the modifications? Do you have a LS3 with a 4L60 tranny? What have you done to it? Let's validate it.
Right.
So we do that. There's a whole validation process, very similar to the likes of the Haggertys and Grundys, which are all amazing coverage.
Yeah.
I've had both of them with my classic cars. I have many classic cars, as you know, and I've had Haggerty and Grundy. Of course, I own the State Farm agency, so of course I'm going to have all my vehicles on State Farm. Sure. But I got to tell you, I have a personal story. I lost one of my cars that I restored, and State Farm was there within 2 days with a check. 40 grand and
oh, fantastic!
So it was amazing.
Fantastic. So, yeah. When did State Farm start doing this? Because this is not.
It's not
real new.
No,
but
I'd have to say within the last 10 years, and they saw a need for it. Not only a market, but a need to properly cover the classic vehicle. And State Farm, number one auto insurer in the U.S. We have 51% of market share, so it's highly likely that a lot of our friends in the classic car industry have State Farm. So why would they want to lose that business to the likes of another
exactly
company?
Right. Exactly
bring it in-house, but do it right, do it correctly. So if there ever is a loss, that it's covered with stated, agreed upon classic car coverage, opposed to,
Which basically means that you and I agree that my car is worth X. It's worth $50,000.
Absolutely.
It will most likely appreciate in time.
Yes, sir.
Can one
or appreciate?
Appreciate.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, not depreciate.
Right. Not depreciate. Where a new car, of course, will depreciate
Yes,
over
sir.
value.
Yes, sir.
So if that car becomes more valuable in a year and a half, 2 years, which the car market is doing,
Yeah,
in
you'd want it to, right?
Sure,
Yeah.
in some situations, some of these cars are worth big money.
Yes, sir.
Do you then adjust again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's funny. I talked to the ladies in my office last week, and we were wrapping up our month, and I said, okay, February, let's call all of our classic car customers, let's get them in, let's have a conversation, and let's reevaluate all their vehicles. Let's make sure, let's pull comps, let's go and let's find out exactly what these cars are selling for at auction, what are the aftermarket prices at, prices for big, 13-inch rotors with big 6-piston disc brakes. Where is the market gone with this stuff, with the aftermarket stuff, with the original stuff, a patinaed original car? Look at the value on this patina stuff, where I wrote it for $18,000 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe it is 32 now.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you need to go through, and you've done valuation.
Oh, sure.
You do car, classic car valuation validations as well. So you've got to go look in the market, keep your pulse on the market of these classic cars, and what are they selling for at auction, what are people buying them for, and make sure that if there is a loss, that they're properly covered
Right.
for it.
And you're exactly right in that cars do change, or value of classic cars change. Up until recently, the recent market changes is a bit stagnant. It's
Right.
not that there's been a significant loss in value of
Right.
classic cars, or a significant gain where there has been in the last
Mm-hmm.
10 years, but the market stayed just a little bit stagnant. So you want to make sure that you have enough coverage. If there's a total loss on a classic car, is it detrimental to your other insured automobiles with State Farm? I mean,
No, that's a great question. So it just depends what the total loss is. So yes and no. Let's say comprehensive coverage. It's going to cover if your car is stolen, vandalized, catches fire, tree falls on it, snowpack crushes your garage or your shop. So anything, you hit a deer or an animal, anything that's out of your control, I call comprehensive act of nature, act of God. If it is out of your control and your car is damaged or a total loss, State Farm will then come in for full repair or replacement, and it will not count against you whatsoever on your other insurance. There'll be no rate increase at all. Uninsured motorists, so some idiot hits you that doesn't have insurance or not enough insurance and wipes out your car, or you need it repaired, then State Farm will replace your vehicle using your uninsured motorist coverage, and that won't count against you. Where it will count against you if it's your fault, right? You're ripping
and it
around.
Should.
Yeah,
and it should.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But you have that coverage in place, and that's why you have the agreed upon value. So if you're ripping around a corner and you're playing and you lose control and you spin it out and you hit a tree or a pole, or you damage it, or even if you just back into somebody, then it's your fault.
Don't run out of talent.
Don't run out of talent. Know how to drive. So,
And I'm glad you brought
yeah.
up uninsured motorists, because I was talking to an attorney friend of mine here in Spokane, a well-known attorney, and we got on the subject of insurance.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he brought up is that people don't get enough uninsured motorist coverage, and it's cheap.
It's really cheap.
It's really cheap.
It's the cheapest. Comprehensive, that we were just talking about, and uninsured motorists are the two cheapest forms of insurance. And it really bothers me that we, in today's age, that we have to actually have uninsured motorists, but we do.
Sure.
50% of all the accidents on the road are caused by people who don't have insurance. So it's not the people who are responsible, like you and I, that pay our bills and that actually have insurance. No, we're not the ones causing the accidents. It's the people who don't even have insurance that are causing the accidents. So if we want to take the risk 50-50, when we get an accident, we might be hit, 50% chance we might get hit, struck by somebody who doesn't even have insurance. So,
But the ramifications of that are far more severe than I think what people realize. If I'm driving along and somebody destroys my automobile,
just T1s
and
wipes
puts me in the hospital for months,
Mm-hmm.
and after that time I can no longer work,
right?
and I'm 40 years old, as an example.
Oh man.
And if you don't have enough uninsured motorist coverage,
Yep.
you could be in a world of bloody hurt
Yeah,
very, very quickly.
Yeah, because your uninsured motorist is going to cover your personal injury, medical bills, and your property damage, which is going to be your vehicle. So
Right.
you should kind of take pause when you're looking at your insurance and just make sure that you kind of check the boxes and you make sure you have, enough uninsured motorists to cover medical bills and replace your vehicle. Just think, okay, if somebody hit me who doesn't have insurance, do I have enough? And the same thing with your liability too. Make sure that if you strike somebody else, that you have enough to pay for their medical bills and their personal property. Because if you don't, where do you think they're going to get it from? They're going to come after you, and they're going to take any equity you have in your home, any retirement, any savings. In the state of Washington, they can garnish your wages 20% for 20 years until they get their money. So I always talk to people, I'm like, hey, just take pause for a minute, think about it, think about your assets, think about your net worth that you want to protect. Make sure you have enough liability insurance in place in case you accidentally hurt or killed somebody, heaven forbid, right?
Yeah.
That you have enough liability insurance to cover those bills so you don't lose everything, right? And then the same thing with uninsured motorists. So, but you're right, uninsured motorists is inexpensive, and a lot of people are like, I don't need it,
Yeah.
But you do, you really do.
Yeah.
And it's cheap.
Yeah, that's
couple bucks a month.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's really liability and collision are the two most expensive
Right.
coverages. Yeah.
But those are the three things that we really need to concern about: liability, comprehensive, and uninsured. Are those the three major things we need to look at when we're looking at a policy? Or
when I'm looking at a classic car, liability, like I said, does two things. It's going to cover the other party, protect the other party if you're at fault, and it's going to protect your net worth, your assets, in case they go after you if there's not enough. Your comprehensive is your act of nature, act of God, right? So if your car catches fire, like my '66 Fairlane caught fire, lost it. I already had it.
Oh, you're driving a foreign car. That's why.
A '66 Fairlane is an American icon. Big block, 4-speed. Yeah, so
the old Tim Allen thing. Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to go to commercial break here real
right,
quick. I got to thank our sponsors, Can-Am Auto Body. Thanks, you guys. And, of course, the good folks at European Auto House. So after a couple of seconds, we'll come back. Thanks.
We own business for 50 years, and we would like to invite you to try our local automotive body repair services. We offer a variety of services, including full-service collision repair, frame and unibody repair, air condition services, and fiberglass repair. We have a certified spray booth. We're on a gold level with Spokane Clean Air, and we are willing to work with all insurances. And you'll always get a written lifetime warranty with any of our services. Give us a call at 509-534-3044 or visit our shop at 7706 East Boone Lane. That's 7706 East Boone Lane.
And we're back, and we're here with Tim Lane this morning, a local State Farm agent. Thanks again for being on the show this morning, Tim. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You know, the show, obviously the premise behind the show is to help our viewers here in Spokane and other places. Oddly enough, we actually have viewers in France and England and a couple other places, which is kind of cool.
Very cool.
But we want to bring my 40 years of experience in the automobile industry into this show and kind of make it exciting and interesting and hopefully educational.
Yes.
What do we need to talk about when it comes to insurance? What other things should people concern themselves with when it comes to properly
insuring?
Yeah.
Passenger cars and classic vehicles alike. I think on the classic vehicle, I think you just need to go through all your modifications or the originality of your vehicle and make sure that you're looking at the auctions, make sure you're looking at all the guides that are out there, classic car guides. Make sure that you can replace your vehicle with your agreed upon value, right?
Do you
document all the modifications, photos? So that's a great underwriting is probably something we should talk about a little bit, I think.
How does one get a vehicle appraised? I mean, does State Farm require an appraisal in order to cover a car for X amount of dollars? And if they do, how does that happen? Who do you contact?
Great question. So I personally field underwrite most of all the classic vehicles. I've got over 25 years in classic car. I'm a classic car guy. Came from a long line of mechanics, grandfather, father, and so I've been in the industry for a long time, and it's what got me into insurance. Believe it or not, it's I didn't wake up one day and be like, I want to be an insurance agent. It's
right.
because of the vehicles, the classic cars, and so
it's a sickness that we.
It is a sickness. It is.
Welcome to addiction. Right?
Yeah, I know exactly. It is true. It's my biggest addiction. So I'd say it's probably where I spend, besides my mortgage, is probably the most of my money I spend on is on cars. It's awesome.
Welcome.
Yeah, my wife wouldn't think so, but yeah. So underwriting. So I'll field underwrite. I'll work with one of my customers or potential customer, and we'll take a look at the vehicle. We'll talk about the vehicle. We'll do a 360 walk around. We'll find out, what condition is it in? Is it original? How original is it? Is it numbers matching from the transmission, to the motor, to the chassis, to everything, and then to the body? And then is it the original paint, or has it been a respray? So we'll look at that, and all those things change the value a little bit. We'll look at modifications. What modifications did you really do? Did you just throw a small block Chevy 350 in with 350 trans, or did you actually, what did you do?
Yeah.
And there's value for all of that,
Sure
and
there
it's
is.
all great no matter. Or do you have a rat rod? Did you take a 46 Ford cab and put it on a 85 S10 with a small block 350? If you did, cool, that's awesome. And there's a validation for that,
Sure.
and we'll cover that. So when we're doing the validation, the customer and I will have a conversation, and we'll talk about everything that went into this vehicle, and then we'll do a 360 walk around. We'll look under the hood. We'll look under the car. Does it, what kind of suspension does it have? Is it coilovers? Is it leaves? So what did you change on it? We'll go inside and we'll look at the interior, the dash. Is it Dakota Digital? Is it original? Is it analog? What is it? The
Right.
seats, are they covered, recovered? Are they leather, vinyl? What? All the way around the car, and then even to the fuel sending. Is it an in-tank? Is it an in-tank electronic fuel pump? Is it out? Is it a manual? I mean, we'll look at everything of the vehicle, and then I'll be like, all right, well, what do you think it's valued at? I'll ask them, because they're going to have a lot more passion,
Sure.
Into it, and then if it's right in the wheelhouse, I'll be like, all right, let's try to submit it for that. And usually these owners know, and it's usually right. And some people are a little too high. So in that case, I'll show them some comps and some other vehicles that have sold. That's the thing. It's not, they'll show me vehicles that are selling, that are for sale.
Yeah.
That you can't take that in consideration. I can try to sell something for $100,000 that may never sell, right?
I know that feeling.
Right? Yeah. I bet you do. Yes, sir.
And you bring up a valid point. You really, truly do. It used to be up until probably 5, 6, 7 years ago that a restored car was what everybody wanted. You go to the auctions. We all know the auctions are.
Right.
I don't know to put the names out there, but the restored cars were bringing all the dough. Now it's the cars that are. They're patina, they're
Yes.
old, they're dusty, they're
Yeah.
grungy, they're dirty. A perfect example, I found a VW down in Potlatch. right,
Okay.
that had been sitting in storage for years and years and years and years. Okay,
Nice.
this thing it was a 1960 VW Beetle. Right?
Perfect.
It had dust on it that thick.
Yeah.
Right.
The quintessential barn find.
Exactly
baby,
right. The barn find.
Yeah.
Right. So I put this thing up on a trailer, and I take a picture of it. I put it on my Facebook page. And driving home from Potlatch, and not 30 seconds later, I get a phone call from a guy in Southern California. He says, "Klaus." I said, "Yeah." He says, "How much for the bug?" I said, "What do you mean, how much for the bug? I haven't even washed it
Yeah,
yet."
you got the
He says,
dirt
"Oh, no,
underneath
no,
it."
don't wash it. If you wash it, I don't want it."
Nice.
I go, "What?" Serious stuff.
Yeah.
It's the Wayne Carinis of the world,
Yeah.
and those guys,
Yeah.
they're finding these
Yeah.
barn finds,
They
and
are.
they don't want them touched. Leave the dirt on it.
I love them all. I have modified. I'm working on a '68 Chevelle right now that I'm modifying. I'm going to put an LS and a 4L60 and independent suspension and coilovers, and that's great. But but I love all original too. There's some all of this, keeping it stock. There's just something about keeping it stock. Is it worth more? It's like art. Whatever someone will pay for
Yeah.
it is what it's worth. So,
Yeah.
I love it. I love I like the faux patina too. A lot of these guys are taking these 67 to 72 C10 trucks and they're patinaing it out and lowering them, putting it on 20s. I love it. I respect all of it, you know. And then you find an original, classic muscle car that just has not been touched. It's the original paint. I have customers, little old ladies that have. There's two that have Mustangs, convertible Mustangs, that have been driving them for years, and they still drive them.
And they're only original one time.
And they're all original, and the paint is original, faded. I mean, do you restore it? Right?
No. Today, no.
Well, you and I are saying that
10
right
years
now.
ago, yeah.
Unless you're looking for a 65 convertible Mustang with a 289 or whatever, and you want to restore it to original. Maybe that's what you've always wanted, right?
But now you have to concern yourself with restoration costs.
Yes.
And the restoration costs are today, I mean, just to paint a car today, to do it properly, 15, 20 grand.
Easily.
You know, and you can exceed the value of that automobile just by having it properly painted. You can.
You can, and that's where it comes to when you're doing the valuation. Yes, if you look at a certain make and model vehicle, if you're looking at a 70, 442 or whatever, and you're trying to get 50,000 for it, and they're not selling for that, how are you going to validate that? What modifications? Why is that paint job a $30,000 paint job? Cutting and buffing is not free. It's not cheap. It's a lot. You've got a base coat, clear coat, and you're doing a lot. Are you doing all the jams? Are you cutting and buffing the interior? I mean, you could get a $10,000 paint job, but it's the product. You've got $3,000-4,000 of base, clear, tape, sandpaper, but it's the labor and how much time for cutting and buffing, and you want that shine, show shine, and zero imperfections. You may have $30,000.
There's guys out there, as an example, who are really, really good at color sanding cars. I have never had the guts to take sandpaper to paint, ever. But there's guys that are brilliant at it, and it's expensive.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Because it's
labor.
really time-consuming.
It's really time-consuming. But if you want to get all of that, waffling out and get, you've got to wet sand and cut and buff, and that takes time. So, yeah, is that car worth more? You have to validate that and the reasoning why, and have that conversation. Now, to complete the question you asked me is State Farm going to take my word for it or the customer's word? Say we agree upon $50,000 for a car, and I submit that. State Farm says no way, it's 30. Then we bring in a third-party estimator, like or evaluation, like yourself, to go through and put together a very comprehensive report looking at that vehicle, vehicle make and model, all the modifications or the originality of it, and then pulling comps, looking at what they're sold for, and do a full. I mean, I don't need to tell you. This is what you do for a living.
I do. I do a lot of appraisals, vintage car appraisals. I don't do appraisal work for crashed or damaged automobiles. I don't know how much it's going to take you to fix your car. I have no idea. Yeah. But I do a lot of appraisal work, valuation work, where, for an example, I'll do a workup of history on the car, photograph the car, and then go over the automobile and let the insurance company know, or the agent know, hey, this has been done, this has been done, this has been done, this is the condition of the paint, this is the condition of the chrome, and you go over the entire automobile. And it takes a lot of time to do that and put it together and make it a nice presentation.
And the insurance companies love that. I know with State Farm, I've been off sometimes a little bit. I've sometimes been a little high, and sometimes I've been a little low. And so, but it's great also so if maybe it will come in at that $50,000 rate, maybe State Farm missed a couple of things, or Haggerty or Grundy. So it's great to have that third party. I'd have to say I think I've got a third party involved twice maybe, and I do these all day long. So most of the time we all can agree upon what it is. If we can't, we get the third party involved. But that's really good for the customer as well, because they may think that their car's worth $50,000 and it's really worth $30,000, and there's nothing wrong with a $30,000 hot rod. That's awesome, right? And there's nothing wrong. They may say, well,
unless of course you paid $50,000 for a $30,000.
Right, I know. Well, and they probably did. They probably paid $50,000 to have it built, right? Or they paid it from an auction at $50,000. But so it's good. It's good to bring that third party in. But that doesn't happen very often. I mean, everybody can come and agree upon, the value. There's enough third-party resources out there online or in person to come up with a valuation.
Right.
I go to all the local car shows.
I see you at every one of them.
Yeah, likewise. And so we know what's out there. We know what cars are going for, and we can keep our pulse. I keep our thumb on the pulse of what's
I understand
going on.
you're also going to get a little more personally involved in a couple of shows that are coming up next year.
Yes.
That have been originally put on by other groups, and you're now going to do a couple of shows. Which ones?
Yes, sir.
Which shows are you going to do next year?
So we're taking over Valley Fest Car Show next year.
Oh,
so
terrific.
Love that show.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Locos Car Club's been doing it for a long time. They're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come in and take that car show over. I've put together quite a few car shows in the past and done a lot of marketing and promotions before. So and as you know, I'm a car enthusiast, so it's just a good fit.
Yeah, I saw you out at Lone Wolf last year too. You did
Yes.
at the Harley dealer. That was a cool show.
That was a fun show. We worked with Country Swingers, and we worked with Embrace Washington. It was a free show. All proceeds, it was donation only. All proceeds went to foster children. Country Swingers came in, and then we did live country swing dancing. We had 6 country western bands. We ended up with 60 cars in and out all day long. It was phenomenal.
It was a great show.
It was a great show. Harley liked it so much that they're actually going to have us come back next year and do their annual car show for them.
Terrific.
So that's going to be our car show, and it's going to be a salute to the troops. So it's going to be military themed. So we're going to have a lot with just military vehicles. Then we're going to have our classic car in the main lot. And then we're working on some really cool surprises with having some military personnel and maybe a flyby. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be way
It should
cool.
be a really good time.
The vintage car scene is it's so cool. Not only just the cars, but it's a great family thing. It's a great place to bring the kids. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's a great community of people who appreciate automobiles.
Absolutely.
And all kinds of cars.
Yeah.
It's neat. It's
really
really
cool. I mean, we have a lot of really good shows here in Spokane. Brian Anderson does the Speed and Custom show in the spring. That's our kickoff, indoor party. That's where I met you actually a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And there's just show after show after show, and they're just phenomenal. Good guys right in the middle of summer, and there's so many shows, and I bring my kids, my wife and kids to all the shows. They are kid friendly. They're great for the family. So looking forward to another great Spokane car show year, of course, and
awesome.
And then sponsoring and hosting a couple of car shows next
very,
year.
very
too.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to working with you this year.
Yes,
I
sir.
really am. It's going to be a lot of
Likewise.
fun. It's been great having you on the show
Thank
this
you,
morning.
brother.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
You
man.
bet. We'll do this again.
All right, sounds good, Klaus.
Thanks, folks. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for watching. The Car Guy is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. The Car Guy is sponsored in part by European Auto House and Can-Am Body Shop. Ask Klaus a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.